Welcome back to County Connection. For this segment, we're going to be talking about staying safe around swift water during the spring runoff. And with me for this segment are technician Mark Watson from the Summit County Sheriff's Office and Ranger John Reller from the Water Rescue Group, also associated with Sheriff's Office. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so this time of year, it's change of seasons, obviously. People are excited to get out there and have a little more sunshine and warm weather than we've been used to for the past 8 months or so. So what should people be thinking about related to staying safe around waterways?
Well, with the swift water on the rise now that it's starting to warm up and we've got release coming out of the dam, it's really important to be careful around the water. It's really cold, moving quickly, and it's easy to get swept downstream and into a fair bit of trouble. So it's really important that you keep track of your pets, kids around that moving water, or keep them away at a safe distance away, not be throwing things in the water for the dogs to chase. To have the right equipment when you are around the water, PFDs, helmet, throw bags, gloves at a minimum to be safe around the water.
Okay, so what is the snowpack looking like? What kinds of conditions do we have out there at the moment relative to kind of historical?
Well, the snowpack, as you know, we had a great season and it didn't stop snowing, and now we've got summer, so it's great to see it. But snowpack is well above average this year. And the runoff is going to come. Right now we're seeing a little bit of a later runoff than we've usually seen down the lower blue there. But rivers are fairly similar to last year. So as the first week of June goes, we see sort of, if we look at the rafting side down lower blue there, we look in the 1,000 area, 1,000 cubic feet per second. And as we get to our peak, and the peak area for us here in Summit County is around middle of June. So middle of June, usually around 12th of June to 20th of June, you'll see the higher river levels. So just be careful. Be careful every time you're around the water here this time of year, but really be watching that. Now, if you're unsure of river levels, the guys around here, the rafting companies, the kayak companies, and the fishing companies, give them a call, phone them. They'll give you what's out there. They'll give you an update on river conditions, and they're just really helpful with that.
Great. And one of the things about the runoff season is it can be pretty unpredictable in terms of how quickly levels come up, or to what degree we see flooding. So tell us about how the weather, what are some of the factors, weather-related factors that come into play with swift water safety?
Well, the water levels are going to fluctuate throughout the day. Earlier in the day, after a cooler evening, the water level is going to be a little bit lower. And then as the temperature increases throughout the day, the water level is going to rise significantly as you get into the afternoon, early evening, before it starts to go back down late into the evening. Also, if we get some good rainstorms, that obviously is going to add to the runoff. And it might not be for an hour or so after that rainstorm, but it'll take a bit before that hits the rivers.
Right. So I think that brings up a good point. We have lots of campgrounds throughout Summit County. Many of them are close to waterways. So when people are camping in some of these areas, particularly next to rivers, what should they be thinking about?
Me. No, again, be aware of your weather, especially in Summit County and any of the different counties around us. But be aware of where you are in there, because if there is flooding going on, or the potential of flooding, and that does rise, as you've seen lately in Kansas last month, a lot of flooding down there, a lot of vehicles washed away, a lot of people stranded, and unfortunately several deaths. So really be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the weather, and again, I can't emphasize, contact your local people around here, shops, kayaks, on just what's going on with the river.
Okay, and so you've mentioned vehicles, which I think is another good point. I think that we've all seen footage at one point or another of vehicles getting swept down a rushing river. what are some tips you have in terms of avoiding that situation?
Yeah, the vehicle situation, 2 feet of water will sweep your vehicle away. It'll take it downstream. The big thing with that is if the water is flowing and you're thinking of going through some sort of culvert area or some sort of stream bed, don't.
Don't do it.
Honestly, don't do it. If it's running swift, yeah, there's a high chance you're going to put yourself in danger. And once you're in danger, and then people coming to assist you, if it's friends, they're going to put themselves in danger. And it just sort of cascades from there. We really want people to be safe out there, be aware. We've got a beautiful environment here. We've got a lot of tourists coming here. It's a great place to come. But yeah, just use some good common sense there.
Yeah,
Right.
6 inches of water is enough to knock you off your feet. You might have decent footing, but with the runoff, we've got a lot of logs and debris coming down in the water. And if that hits you and knocks you off your feet, chances are you're not going to get back up on your feet with just 6 inches of water. So it doesn't take much once you get into moving water.
Right, and it can be somewhat deceptive if, in terms of the depth. So something that you may perceive as only being a few inches deep, there can be other things going on underneath there, like erosion in the roadway or something like that.
Right, it'll change quickly, the landscape underneath the water. And with the running water and the runoff, it's going to become muddy, so you're not going to be able to see the bottom, so you don't know that something's been eroded away or how deep it is. It might not look that deep, but it really can be with the murky water that we're going to get during runoff.
All right. So what are some common mistakes that people make in terms of equipment or even just some situational awareness around our local rivers and streams?
Well, not understanding their equipment, okay? The sort of cheaper rafts you can buy at different stores. I mean, a lot of those aren't designed to go in heavy swift water. I mean, they're just for your local lake and fun little area to
Pool toy.
a little play around. But the PFDs, I mean, these things here save lives. It's simple. I mean, if you can, the helmets. Again, if you're in an area where you're going to smash your head against a tree, some sort of strainer. But if you do fall in and something does happen, and the water's swift, I mean, you've got to look at how you're going to self-rescue yourself. It's important. If you can see a calmer stretch, swim to that calmer stretch and get out. I mean, you've got to swim hard. You've got to swim aggressively to get there. If you can't and you're floating down, get your feet in front of you, hands up front, and make sure your feet stay in front, because if you start trying to put your feet on the ground, you could easily get a foot entrapment, and that entrapment then will get you hooked in there, and now you're becoming some sort of debris under the water.
Uh-huh.
If you see something like a tree in front of you, you don't, as you brought up, you don't know what's underneath it. Big thing with that, if you see something in front of you and you can't avoid it, swim aggressively at it and go over the top of it.
Okay.
Those are some very important things. But PFDs, we've got whistles, we have knives, we're in helmets as rescuers. It's essential equipment. It saves lives, and unfortunately, just last week we had a couple people out there in some lower end rafts and not wearing PFDs, and again, fortunately they self-rescued themselves, but it could have been a different situation.
Sure. And that water is really cold right now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, high 30s, low 40s.
Yeah, that's pretty
It's
cold.
quite cold. And you get cold very quickly. You get cold up to 25 times quicker in the water than you do in the air of the same temperature. So you don't have long before you're kind of incapacitated. So as Mark said, it's really important that your training and expertise and your equipment match the activity that you're trying to do.
Sure. Okay, so Mark, you mentioned several times PFD for folks who might not know what that stands for.
A personal flotation device.
All right.
Other people call it a life jacket. I mean, you can use it in many terms, but if you are wearing them, make sure it isn't your child's one if you're an adult. And make sure it's appropriate for your weight, your ability, and what you're actually using it in the area of different types of rafting, whitewater, boating. So.
Okay. And so what are some of the other pieces of equipment that you brought here today?
We've got the safety equipment that, as a minimum, we want to have the PFD, as Mark was saying, a helmet and some gloves, but then we've got different types of throw bags that we use to rescue people. It's always safer if we can pull them out of the water as opposed to us going into the water after them. We're just potentially another victim at that point then, so
Right.
we try to limit our exposure as well, and by using throw bags, we can typically effectively do that.
All right. Let's see. Is there, I think we've covered everything. Is there anything that you guys feel like that we haven't hit on in terms of staying safe this
Yeah,
spring?
two things. If you do see someone in distress, call 911. Okay, we have a great dispatch group up here. They'll notify our search rescue team and our water rescue dive rescue team immediately. Some important things we need to know is where they last saw them, what are they wearing, what they were doing, and they will need to stay on the phone. If they can stay on the phone, that's great. Obviously if they're in the middle of trying to assist them, we don't ask that person to jump in the water and become a victim themselves.
Right.
So the more information we can get is going to make our response a lot quicker, a lot more accurate, and getting to that person at a very, the most fastest time we can. The other thing, if you are out there and you're a kayaker or you've got your kayak or your raft, we really, and it's state law, but do put your name, address, and if you can put your phone number on there, that's great, because if that raft does get away, say you're stopped for lunch on the side of the river and if for some reason it just floated away, at least we have some sort of contact information to go, hey, you okay? Are you fine? That one phone call could stop 40, 50 people spending numerous hours looking for that owner of that type of vessel, boat, raft. Yeah.
Great. All right, great tips. All right, well, thanks so much, you guys, for coming in for our annual chat about swiftwater safety.
Great.
And
Yes.
have a great spring.
Thank you very much.
All right. Don't go away. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about protecting your home from wildfire.